with a WWE star potentially in line for a massive push and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for June 6th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. On Talk Is Jericho, Jeff Hardy spoke about his first creative pitch in AEW where he was shot down. I feel limitless, you know? God, there's so many ideas. I pitched my first idea, but it didn't go through. For my singles matches, I thought it'd be cool for us to have different music, and that Hardy Boys music just be the Hardy Boys music. I was going to use one of my new songs, but it would be like a WTF moment because what are we listening to? You've never heard this before. I think it would grow on people, but that's the first thing I've really said. But yeah, the freedom feels amazing. My ideas are overflowing, so I just need to keep writing and keep pitching. With John Cena and US Champion Theory going back and forth online, it's thought that the two could be facing at SummerSlam. Discussing the potential feud on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said, I think there's people who, I've certainly heard people running around with this idea of Cena and Austin Theory. I haven't really asked about it. That Theory beating Cena would be brutal. That is wrestling though. The part-timer who is 45 years old should lose to the young guy on the way up. He absolutely should. Whether people will accept it or not is a different thing. It used to be you could do that and make a star, and now it's not as guaranteed. Theory, he's another one who checks a bunch of boxes, but he's missing something, being great. He's not great. John Cena would continue to tease this match taking place with his latest post on Instagram. During the pay-per-view last night, Judgment Day defeated the team of Finn Balor, AJ Styles, and Liv Morgan. A fan from ringside posted a video of AJ on the outside where he's bleeding. This is now the second time the Phenomenal One has been cut open this year, with him hitting his head before making his way to the entrance ramp a couple months ago at WrestleMania. With MJF cutting possibly his greatest promo on AEW Dynamite, Bully Ray went on Busted Open Radio to give praise to the promotion, saying, I don't care if people call this a work or a shoot. If Tony Khan is putting a live microphone in MJF's hand and allowing him to go out there and say what he wants to say, then what we're seeing is in the context of sports entertainment. Because if he goes out there and he started saying things that he wasn't supposed to say, forget about the F-bombs, anything else, then they'd cut his mic a lot earlier. They'd go to black in an instant. They'd throw in the commercials in an instant. This is a beautiful part of the story. Talking on the sessions about the women's division in AEW, Renee Paquette said the company should look to give others a chance. When Toni Storm didn't go over Britt on their way to the tournament and then to have Ruby also lose, it would be nice to have one of those women in that spot. Like I'm saying, Britt is great, there's no denying that. I think she's fantastic. I think she's head and shoulders at the top of that division. But to spread some of that love around as they're building up that division, these women are stars. Toni Storm is a star, Ruby Soho is a star. She's amazing. Kris Statlander is on her way up as well. With the chief brand officer of WWE, Stephanie McMahon, on a leave of absence, the company has noted in a press release that a new EVP and head of marketing has been named. Newman brings more than 2 decades of executive experience to WWE, including her most recent role as chief marketing officer of Manchester United Media. She has also held senior positions at the Times of London and Financial Times, leading global marketing initiatives, developing strategic partnerships, and boosting subscription growth across various products. As part of WWE's senior leadership team, Newman's oversight will include marketing, brand, community relations, entertainment relations, creative services, and photography. When it comes to more reports on why she stepped away, someone inside the company told Business Insider, family or not family, we've got the right people in place. We weren't seeing that growth. When someone has moved out of a company, it's usually the result of something not working. We took stronger control of that a few months ago, with it previously reported that Stephanie's abilities were questioned by investors and those in WWE. It remains to be seen when she returns. Following his win over Omos and MVP, Bobby Lashley celebrated with the crowd, hoisting up a fans replica WWE title. With many feeling he could be getting a world title shot next, Dave Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer Radio, since Riddle is out of the Roman match, maybe Roman will go against Lashley. I figure, maybe that's it, or maybe Orton's hurt, whatever it is. We know Drew for Cardiff. Roman's not going to wrestle till Cardiff. He is definitely wrestling at SummerSlam, and I don't know what the status is of Money in the Bank. The last time I asked about that, which was, I don't know, a couple days ago, it was still not decided. I think that they probably could do deeper shows. Originally, Roman was on the July show, was going to be with Riddle. It had changed. It may change back, but maybe that's what the whole thing is, to give him an opponent, and why not? Lashley's fine in that role, and it's not a match they've done to death, and it's something different. It's not the big match, but it's big enough. On his drive-thru podcast, Jim Cornette had some harsh words for WWE since they recently changed The Rock's daughter, Simone Johnson's name to Ava Raine. Her name is not, if she's not going to use Simone Johnson and they're not going to use Little Rock or Little Pebble or Female Pebble or whatever, what is she even there for? She's the daughter of the most famous wrestler in the history of the company, now, currently, since he's the biggest movie star in the world, and they're going to change her name so that you don't automatically know she's The Rock's daughter on the card, but she's The Rock's daughter. Johnson signed with the company in 2020 but would suffer a knee injury and needed surgery for the third time in September of that year. While she's yet to make her debut, she did respond to those upset about the name change. I probably sound like a broken record, and hopefully this is the last I'll mention this, but I don't understand why people being portrayed as separate individuals from their family name is such a heated topic. A name doesn't discredit any prior accomplishments from any family. Speaking of WSI, former WWE star Shelly Martinez talked about a time where Batista was eavesdropping on her conversation with his girlfriend Melina. Melina was venting to me one day after a show, and then I opened the door and Batista was listening on us. I was like, ew. So that didn't help his situation on how I viewed him. I was real short with him after that because that's my homegirl. Then he started getting annoyed. Oh, it's like you and Melina have the same mind. It's like, no dude, you're a dick to my girlfriend. Not cool. I'm going to have her back. At Hell in a Cell, fans saw a triple threat match for the Raw Women's title where Bianca Belair came out on top against Asuka and Becky Lynch. That was not the original plan for the pay-per-view, as Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio. Obviously, the idea was Bianca Belair and Naomi for the show, and after that, it's like always. You can't get too mad when you have a plan and then something out of control, whether it's an injury or somebody walks out or whatever, and your plan is taken out and then you've got to go with something else. Sometimes it's not perfect. Usually, it's not perfect. And it's just kind of like, you had a plan, it didn't work. Same thing with UFC. Sometimes when a guy will get hurt in a championship match, they'll say a contender gets hurt and they throw in another guy who's really not the most viable contender. And people start going, oh, this is bogus and everything. It's like, 3 weeks before the show, sometimes you're not going to have the perfect championship match when the contender pulls off, and it's the same thing in wrestling. I mean, it's like the depth isn't there. You don't have 50 different choices. In a lot of ways, in most ways, the reality is that from a star power standpoint, which is what you're looking for on pay-per-view, this was a much better match than the original scheduled match, and it was also most likely a better match in the ring than Bianca Belair and Naomi would have been, so it was actually a plus, but obviously they did not want to put Becky in there at first. What WWE has planned for Becky Lynch at SummerSlam was also touched on. I would figure that SummerSlam, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. It was very clear that they were holding that match off for a while. I don't think they're going to wait for Mania because they don't have the depth, probably to wait till Mania, but I figured they'll wait to SummerSlam for that, and that's why they didn't do it here. Really, they didn't even want Becky in the match. It was just one of those things where, and I was a little bit surprised because I figured, just go with a singles match with Asuka, but for whatever reason, they decided instead to go with a three-way. Last night at Hell in a Cell, Cody Rhodes made his much anticipated entrance for his bout against Seth Rollins. The crowd went nearly silent at the sight of his arm, with him suffering a torn pec. With him pulling through for yet another victory over the Visionary, Rhodes would address the crowd following the event.
I am sure that I'm going to explain things a little further tomorrow. I will be very brief. No one convinced me with a torn pec to come out here. It is solely my decision.
Thank you, Cody!
You would have literally killed me from staying away from this ring 10 times out of 10. I would have made the same decision going on last, all in the arena in Chicago. You can't do that. Didn't have to. Please know from the bottom of my heart, I believe in you. We are going to finish this thing. Thank you all very much. Have a great night, and I love you. Thank you. I love you too.
Speaking of the American Nightmare, it's not surprising those in WWE greatly appreciated Cody competing in the main event of last night's pay-per-view despite his injury, as WrestleVotes reported. I've had multiple sources reach out this morning with exemplary words for the performance Cody Rhodes put in last night. Credit to Seth Rollins as well. Those at Gorilla were said to have loved the match. A modern-day, all-time classic Hell in a Cell that WWE will treat as much going forward. Going back to the situation surrounding Cody Rhodes, he will apparently be getting a procedure done this week, with Fightful reporting that sources near Rhodes state that as of this morning, Cody Rhodes is slated to undergo surgery to repair the torn pectoral muscle this Thursday. Notable pectoral injuries in pro wrestling included Triple H 5 months out, Elias 5 months, Takahashi 6 months, and John Cena's miraculous recovery in less than 4 months. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.